Hi, I'm McAuley. My gameplay prototype is Dark. So the idea was it's a 2D platformer based around the sight that the player sees. The initial design has changed a bit since the original concept compared to the final product, and this is due to just overplaying the game, testing things out, play testing, and also just my abilities in Unity. I was kind of learning script as I go along. I've never learned or scripted before. So the original design was there would be a light around the player, and the player wouldn't be able to see, like you can see in the screen in front of you, just here. This is what the final product was, but the original plan was to be like a light source, like a staff or something out there that would the player could go around the level and pick up light sources that would fill up a light bar that they could then use an echolocation feature, which would then show them the world a bit bigger. So I'll just play and show you what I mean by the echolocation. So I did change it to make it a hub instead of the player being able to activate it through a trigger, like say a button press. I changed it so that it was like a hub in the middle of the map. This was due to playtesting, and just it seemed like this is a better option. So basically, the player would be able to see the whole map now, and they would be able to see what their objectives are. So the objectives are to collect each color, which would then unlock the color. So if they clicked the red corner and the object in the red corner, that opens up the red area. So I'll just play it and show you here that part of the mechanic. So there we go, and now if you look there, now that area is opened up. Once they collect all of them, they'll be able to get to this part, which is the level complete. As I said, the original design was to have like a button press, and the player would be able to then see the whole world for a few seconds, and then they would be able to then see where they have to go. After playing this, it didn't really seem right. It didn't feel, it felt too clunky, and it just didn't really balance the game at all. I felt this was a good way to balance the game, where you have like a central hub, and because I was aiming for a sort of puzzle sort of game, I felt like this was an interesting way that the player would have to go to the center of the level, and they could then see how they would be able to work out where each part of the level is. Once the player completes the level turns to color. This for me was a better way of balancing it, because it once the player leaves the game, and their vision is right down to zero, or the fatigue goes to zero. I'll just show you the script and how I use post-processing to trigger this. So at the start of the level, so on void start, I changed the post-processing. So this is just setting it up. So I call the post-processing stack, which I downloaded from Unity Store. I then set the intensity of the vignette to 8 and the color grading to 0, which makes it black and white. Once the player enters the hub, so this is on the void enter trigger, I have it changed so that the intensity is 0 and the color grading is, or this is later on the level, sorry, this is when the player completes the level. So you see, I'll just show you the zoom scripts. So basically, once the player enters the hub, the camera zooms out. So what I did was I used a void update, and this then when the player enters the trigger, the camera will zoom out at the amount I set. So I set it at divided by 5 speed. It starts at 16 and the end point is 150. So the max size would be 150. Once the player leaves, the trigger is set to false. So it's set to false there. It's set to false again, which means the camera will zoom out at back to 16, size 16. See, this just shows you the hub script. So this is just setting the vignette to 0 in the script. And then once the player leaves the trigger box, the player is tagged in the script as player. If I go to player, it's tagged up here, which means that I can then call all of these scripts to recognize that if the player has entered or exit, that it will set the intensity back to 1. see, I'll just go through the movement in the game. So basically, I set it up with speed, jump, and it's just the movement. To get the move, I wanted to have jumps in the game, so I have 3 jumps at the minute. This is changeable in the editor. I just have to go down to player and click on the script, and I can change the values of the jumps, jump force, and speed. I played about with these settings to try to get like the best sort of scenario of what felt good. This worked out well for me. I used a ground check. This just checks where the player is and then resets the extra jumps. So basically, if the ground is true, then the extra jumps will be set to 0. So every time that the player hits the ground, it resets it. So the player can't infinitely jump, or they can, once they hit the ground, it will reset. They can't just jump 3 times and it won't continue to move. The post-processing was hard with it's kind of had an effect on the overall level. I had to get source scripts that sort of made it so that some of the colors, like these here, they're visible, which way they weren't obviously with the post-processing isn't affected by everything. So I had to get a script online needing answers to help me with to have some things not affected by post-processing. Some of the strengths I had, I think the game turned out really well in terms of my original concept, but I feel like when you're playing the game, it is very challenging in some cases where you don't really know, like you have to sort of guess where these are, but I have made it so it is a challenge that you can sort of, there's one over there, so then I can come back and then jump. Obviously, me playing the game, I know where things are, so I would need more play testing from other people to see whether the mechanic needs updated and more help needs shown to the player. They sort of give a direction of where they need to be. As I said, this is different from the final product that I wanted originally, but I still think that what I had wasn't the best when I tested it, and adapting from that, this is what I got, and I feel like it works out a lot better in terms of the gameplay and the feedback I've got from it so far. If I was to improve it, is maybe just having a more clear image of how the game works, just a better understand, maybe a bit more hinting at direction, or more screen space so that this player can see this level better. Sometimes it's a bit hard to sort of find out where you're going, so I think that could definitely be improved. I'll just show you the level once complete. So the main idea is that if it is on the post-processing behavior off, the player will see this once the game is complete. That is it. Thank you very much. And